Hi, this is Vicky, and we are coming into Waco, Texas. This is my son and me. We're returning from a late Christmas with my daughter who lives in Georgetown. So, our first stop is going to be Baylor. Baylor is a university, it's Mary Hardin Baylor. I don't know if they still go by the full name, but was the full name of it. It is a cream of the crop college in Texas, one of the better ones to go to brag about, or at least it was. I'll explain later about that. It's really a large campus. I don't know how large it is compared to the other ones. I think it's been around for a really long time. I don't know. I didn't check to see about that. The current president is Linda A. Livingston, and she succeeded Kenneth Starr. Kenneth Starr was a lawyer and judge, and the person that did the report on the Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton scandal and was instrumental in getting him impeached. And also he spent about 4 years, investigating the Clinton administration. Well, back to the current president. She's been president for about 5 years. She is an Oklahoma State University graduate. Her husband's name is Brad, and he is really tall. He is 6'10" tall. And she must be pretty tall, too, because he doesn't seem like he's, more than a foot taller than her. So I think she's kind of tall, too.
She is the first woman president.
Anyway, she is the first president, and she is the 15th president. So now we just wheeled in and saw the first part of it. I don't know what those buildings are. I haven't been on the campus as far as exploring, so I don't know what those buildings are. Maybe classrooms or administration or whatnot. Looks like a church. I don't know if there's a church on campus or not, but it had a lot of steeples. And it was very interesting. There's a lot of construction going on here, so it's kind of messy getting around down here. And it was Christmas time, so there probably wasn't a lot of students on the campus. Where we're headed now, I kind of think maybe student housing. I'm not really sure. There's a neat little circle that I decided to look at it. It's got a little garden thing in the center of it, and it had a big bee cut into the bushes. It was really pretty, and I thought I got out and got a good picture of it, but apparently I didn't. But here's a quick glance of it. But it was really pretty. And then we spun out of the circle and we headed towards some sports arenas, which we'll be doing in just a second. Let me go ahead and tell you while we're getting there some of the notorious things about Waco. The Branch Davidians, led by David Koresh, it was a religious cult. In April 1993, they had a big eruption with the police, and the compound was burned down. 70-something people died, including children of them. And then there was also some police officers that died. And that was on Mount Carmel. That's the name of the compound. They still exist, too. But there's nothing radical going on with them. So I never quite understood what that was about. Apparently they were mass accumulating a lot of weapons, and I guess it made the government unhappy or something, but I don't know that they were actually doing a lot of evil things, so I never have really fully understood that. All right, well, we're coming up on the the stadium that is a basketball. I believe it's called Farrell Center. It has you can't really tell in the picture, but it has a beautiful gold top. It looks like metal and it's gold looking, not gold, but it's very bright and shiny. Anyway, this is the basketball arena. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to head toward the softball field. Now, the second bad, notorious thing that happened there was a biker gang went to a restaurant, maybe like a Denny's or something. I don't recall what it was. And they had a shootout. 9 or 10 people were killed and quite a few, maybe upwards of 20 people were injured. This was in May 2015. And then 3 or 4 years later, they did not even prosecute anybody. I don't know why. I think maybe they really just couldn't decide who did what, would be my impression of it. But I don't know why. But no one was actually prosecuted in that. So, or maybe they just couldn't. Yeah, I think that's it. They just couldn't figure out who did what. Well, we're at the softball field now, and it's really neat. There's some people out here that I thought were kind of interesting because they were with their kids, and both the man and the woman were on the phone the whole time. This field, which is, kind of typical American behavior now, nobody's paying attention to anybody. The kids had a soccer ball and weren't really doing much with it, so I thought that was kind of just a representation of American life now, where no one, everybody's, stuck on their phones. Here it is right here where they're, where this was going on. I'm doing voiceover because my son and I did a lot of talking that you wouldn't want to listen to, talking about going to the bathroom and kind of bantering with each other, and actually battering too. Sometimes we've gotten little petty arguments, so I'm doing a voiceover. Well, that was the field. It actually reminds me quite a bit of the former Texas Rangers baseball field in Arlington. I kind of wondered if they had the same architect, because it really looks similar to that. Not as big or anything, but it did look similar. We spent around in the basketball parking lot, but I didn't do much filming there. Actually, we may not have spun around either. I wanted to spin around in there, but I think maybe there was some road construction. You couldn't really go in the opening, so. Well, we are coming along here. This building on the right, I don't know what it is, but it's really neat. I think it may have been a church. We are coming up on the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. It's to the right, and there's a really neat cemetery there. It's really old looking. It'd be a great cemetery for a Halloween movie or a scary show. It's really neat. I'm going to go back one of these times and actually walk through it, because it was really neat. I don't know if it's still functional, if you can still be buried there or what, but it was just a really old looking cemetery. Now, Waco has several museums. There's the Mayborn complex. It's near Baylor. I don't know if it's a public museum or if it's related to Baylor. I'll have to see and put that in the description box. This Texas Sports Hall of Fame is a neat museum. There's a Dr. Pepper Museum, and it is over there kind of close to the expansion bridge, but I did forget to point it out in the filming. So it is very neat if you're interested in Dr. Pepper. And then you can have some at the end, and I think they have a restaurant, or they did. Anyway, I've been there several times. It's very interesting if you like Dr. Pepper. So we're coming back out we're still at Baylor, basically. there's Baylor, right, right across the street. There's that chapel I was talking about earlier. And we're going to be turning right, and we're going to go to downtown. Now, there's a lot of construction downtown, too, so I ended up doing a lot of weird weaving around. I'm pretty familiar with Waco, but still, because of the instructions. Construction, I had a little bit of trouble getting around. So the third notorious thing about Waco, what was it? I'm trying to remember what was notorious about it. Oh, gosh. Oh, the scandal at Baylor. A few years ago, Baylor had a scandal because there was some campus rapes and assaults. And they were mostly involving football players and the coaches, and even maybe the president attempted to or appeared to try to keep it under wraps. And so there was a couple of people were convicted, and at least one of them's in prison for quite a while. And the president lost his job. He was fired, and I don't know what all happened. But, well, I do know, but I've forgotten. And so let me stop this for a second and talk about the Hotel Indigo. You can't see it, but it is a really chic, nice-looking hotel. So anyway, back to the situation. So that kind of put a damper on Baylor. I hope overall Baylor's a really great school, and hopefully, they've gotten past all this stigma. But it was kind of a bad blow because Baylor at that time was just, a superb college. So, but I'm sure it's still a good college. I'm not dissing it by any means. All right, well, we're coming up pretty soon, I believe, on the silos, the Magnolia Market at the silos. Chip and Joanna Gaines from the Fixer Upper fame, and we're coming up on that pretty shortly here. Since I'm doing voiceover, this my movie that I use for my editing, it's really hard you can't see what's going on. So I'm kind of guessing where I am. So, all right, here we are. All right, I can see the silo. It's to the left. Let me give you a helpful hint about the parking. It is best to probably park 2 or 3 blocks away because it's really hard to find a parking space here. In the background, if you notice that flag, that's the Alico. It's owned by an insurance company, and at one time it was a hotel, but I was looking up some information on it. Oh, well, let me stop talking here. We just passed the bakery. There's always a line out front. This is part of the market. I don't really know where the restaurant is, but it's there. And the market covers the whole block. And I don't know. I haven't been there in 6 or 7 years, so I don't know if it has the same setup as it had before, but it had some food trucks, and it had also some little outbuildings that had smaller stores. One of them was real cute. It was the fairy garden thing, and I bought a few things there. So the Magnolia Farms is really neat. A lot of people are kind of disappointed because they think that the store is filled with stuff that Joanna Gaines made, but it's not. It's purchased items. But they do have unique items. So it's really fun to go there. It's definitely worth your time. And you can see the Alico again up in the left. Before I didn't talk about it fast enough, but in here, the downtown area is not huge, so you're gonna end up seeing a lot of the Alico. It is the really, really tall building. It was built in 1910, and it has a flag on the top. Now, I accidentally got on this. It's basically an alley, but it was so rough and terrible. But I did like that building right beside of it, which was very old. But it was a horrible road, so I've been to the Dr. Pepper Museum several times. I really enjoy it, and they're always kind of improving it and making it better. So, well, we're just in the downtown area. Waco's kind of quaint. A lot of it is not particularly super modern, but they do have some trendy apartments and some trendy newer houses. But generally, the downtown area is still pretty vintage looking. Most of this stuff being built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So it's still pretty vintage looking. It's easy to get around there, though. I'm just winging it this whole time, without, using any GPS or maps or anything. There's a lot of old houses there also. There's also a Texas Rangers Museum. There is the National Park, the Mammoth National Monument, which basically, I don't know why they call it that, but it's actually a national park. It started out being a state park, and then it was turned into a national park. It's really neat. It takes about 45 minutes to go in there. To get through it, it's kind of it's on the other side it's where if you're coming from Dallas, it's on that side of town. And we're more on the side of town that's coming from Austin. So, anyway, the kids will really like it. It used to be, I haven't been there in 5 or 6 years, but it was very reasonably priced. I paid $4 with a senior discount to get in there. It takes about 45 minutes, so if you've got little kids, they're not going to go bananas in 45 minutes. So we're just driving around downtown. Here's the Alico. Up there, a bigger version of it. I'll show you some more of it later, but we are headed toward the river, the Brazos River. And let me just tell you about something else about Waco. Waco is about, this is an old building, and I don't know what that is. It's not the courthouse, but it is a really neat old building. Waco is about halfway between Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin. The roads are real terrible, so the car, some of my filming is pretty bouncy looking. There's the Alico again. I don't know if I finished talking about that. I have actually been there inside of it. It was very, very nice, and I actually stayed there as a hotel. And that was in the late 1990s. And I got conflicting information on the website because it says that the hotel was demolished and it's now a parking lot, but I don't quite understand what its function is now. It may just be a business complex, but I believe it was a hotel basically to start with. It has 22 stories, and at the time it was built, it was the only about the second skyscraper type building. Of course, now it's puny compared to what's in Dallas or Houston. But anyway, it was built in 1910, finished in 1911, and it cost almost $800,000, which back then was a fortune. It was rainy. It was slightly rainy and overcast day. That's why it's so dark looking. It wasn't overly cold, but it was just rainy and overcast. So we're working our way over to the bridge. Now, this is not the expansion bridge. This is just, I think this bridge is fairly vintage also, but it's a neat bridge. It's one of those old metal kind of bridge with the top over it. I don't think it ever hosted a train or anything, but it's pretty neat looking. I like to drive under it. And then when we get through it, we're going to spin around and go back to it's a little park area that has Longhorn statues, and it has a restroom and some picnic areas. It's neat. It runs along the Brazos River. Well, let me talk about the Brazos River now. The Brazos River starts in New Mexico, in Roosevelt County, New Mexico, and it goes all the way into Texas, and it ends at the Gulf of Mexico, which is at the Gulf of Texas, and it's ends there. Waco also has a Lake Waco. It's man-made. Most of the lakes in Texas are man-made, and it has a Hawaiian Falls. Of the miles of the river, 840 are in Texas, and I personally have seen it in several different areas. And I believe the little area that it goes through, I think it goes through Dallas also. Trying to think if it's the Brazos, but I believe it also goes through Dallas. Not through Dallas, but around the outskirts of the main part of downtown Dallas. I believe it's whatever river it is. It starts with a B. Sorry, senior moment. Correction, it's the Trinity River, not the Brazos. And it doesn't start with a B. It starts with a T. There's the Alico again, as you can see, that's got the flag up there. All right, we are turning in front of the little park. This is just the sky, just showing what it looked like that day. Here is the statues and park area. And we took a little break here. There's the restrooms. They're very nice. And we took a little break here. I don't know where. This is the expansion bridge. This is very old. They are working on it right now, and so there's a lot of noise from the jackhammers and things like that. I peeked over the top of the barrier so I could show you what it looks like. I think they may have had to. I think it started off as free to go across it. They herded cattle and took goods across it. And then I think later on they charged people, which people weren't happy about. And it has little ticket windows there that have been closed off. And I've been on the bridge, and it is definitely, I feel like it definitely needed work because it had a lot of, it was wooden. And it had the bottom part, where you walk across was wooden. And it had some wood that was really soft and scary looking. Here's just where the walkway down to the river. Here's the expansion bridge. Excuse me. Here's the expansion bridge, the middle part. Over here I think it's to the far right. There's an outdoor amphitheater where they have concerts. It's, but I think it's over there. I'm not really sure. I don't see that it's here, but there's like an outdoor theater where they have concerts and, musical things and things like that. But the bridge is really neat. The water is not especially pretty, but it's kind of murky green. But the trees and things around it are gorgeous, and the water is probably one of the reasons that Waco is so pretty, because it has a lot of natural water to it. So Waco is very pretty. That's one of its little claims to fame, that it's very pretty. I don't know where the well-to-do people live in Waco in terms of actually having been there. I'm going to have to do another video where I do some of these things that I left off. But the name of the area is called Castle Heights. All right, well, we have left the Longhorn statues, metal statues, and we are going over to, there's the Alico again. We are going to the Spice Village. It is a craft mall. It's actually more of a gift mall. I think it may have one time been a craft mall, but I've not seen anything in there that's overly looks homemade. Most of it is just gift, things that have been bought. However, they do have pretty unique items. I have a pair of sterling silver heart-shaped Texas earrings that I bought there. They're really
just Texas shaped. They're not heart-shaped.
So there's things there that are not the usual things you'd find at a store. But I was kind of hoping it was a craft mall, but it's not so much. So. And then around a couple doors down from it is Ninfa's. That is a Mexican restaurant, and it's my favorite place to eat here. I've actually deliberately driven here on a day trip to eat here. The food is really good, and the margaritas are spectacular. And it's reasonably priced. It's not particularly expensive. It's very busy, and there's almost always a wait time unless you come at an odd time. But usually they're pretty quick to get you in there. The one thing I like about Ninfa's is everything is good. Sometimes with Mexican restaurants, the food will be good, but the chips will be lame, or the salsa's not so great, or the drinks are weak, But at Ninfa's, there is not anything I've ever had that was not delicious. There's the Alico again. So, but it is very crowded. Sometimes it's better to park across the street because it's really hard to find a parking space there also. Actually, if you're in good shape, walking to just about all of this is probably desirable because the downtown area is crowded. And then right now it's complicated by the road construction. So let me just tell you some famous people that are from or lived in Waco. It's the birthplace of Steve Martin, and also he had a house in Abilene, which is my hometown, for about 5 years. And I really always wanted to run into him somewhere so I could make jokes with him, but I never saw him, and it was his second or third home. I'm sure it wasn't his primary residence, but so that's kind of an interesting thing. And another thing that has to do with Abilene is this is the birthplace of Ashley Simpson, Waco is, and her sister Jessica Simpson was born in Abilene, so that's another little connection thing. And Doris Miller, who was a cook in the Navy in World War II, and he was the first Black American to win the Navy Cross. LaDainian Tomlinson is a pro footballer, was a pro football player, and he's a pro football Hall of Famer. Pat Green is a country western musician. Jennifer Love Hewitt was actually born there. She's an actress. Let's see, who else? I'm trying to think. Sorry. There's actually several more. Some of them I actually don't know who they are, but there was one actress that was like from the 1940s, and I don't recognize her name, but she was born there. And some of these people that I mentioned were not actually born here. Unless I said they were born here, they weren't necessarily born here, but they lived here. Went to school, went to high school, college, or whatever. There is another famous person, Ted Nugent, the wild man rocker. Waco is his primary residence. Now, he has houses elsewhere. And he wasn't born in Waco, but it's his primary residence, so... All right, we're on our way to Cameron Park. It's one of the most beautiful parks in Texas that I know of. I just love this park. In fact, I think I had my best I had my best ever picnic in Cameron Park. We were on a day trip, not a day trip, a girls' weekend trip, a birthday weekend trip with my sister, my mother, me, and my niece. And we came up here and stayed 3 or 4 days. And we took some bucket chicken, out to the Cameron Park and had a picnic. And it was incredibly beautiful. And it was wintertime. It was probably January, February, March, something like that. And it was incredibly beautiful even then. And that's one thing about this park that's really great, is it's pretty even in the winter. Well, now we've turned into Cameron Park Zoo. This is a neat little zoo right in the middle of the park. And we're just going to spin around the parking lot and just show you. I was kind of surprised that it was as busy as it was, because, this is late December. So when I was doing this, and the parking lot was pretty well full. But it's a neat little zoo, and I like zoos. I've been to a lot of zoos. My dad sold animals for a living, so animals were a big part of our childhood. They still had their Christmas tree up, which is not too surprising, I guess. They probably don't take it down till New Year's Day, or after New Year's Day. But anyway, the tree was kind of festive, so that was nice. So we're on our way out. We're going to go into the actual park area. When I was talking about the Branch Davidian compound, Mount Carmel, I don't know if you can go there or not. It's a privately owned area. I actually have never been there. It's 20 miles northeast of Waco. I may have to check that out, put that on the list of things to go see. Of course, it doesn't have the burned out building or anything, but I've never tried to even go see if you can go to that. Oh, and I forgot to mention something else neat about, there's a couple other things that are neat about the town. There are 5 Victorian houses that you can visit. I've toured 2 or 3 of them, and they're really neat. They're real old houses that you can tour. Here we are. We're about to turn into the little park area, part of it, alongside the river. Oh, one other thing that's neat, Baylor, I haven't checked to see if it's still true or not, but Baylor had, the library had the biggest, oh gosh, what's the word? The biggest amount, that's not the word, but biggest collection, sorry, senior moment, collection of Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning's paper memorabilia. They had that there. Now I haven't checked in a while, so I don't know if they still have that. But they did at one time have the world's biggest collection of their memorabilia. So right now we're in here by the lake. It runs right there. The river runs all the way through this park, and it's really attractive there. Over here across the street, along that road, there's some statues of animals. There was about a dozen of them, and they're really neat looking. They're not real big. They're kind of kid size is what I'd say. I don't know if the kids can play on them or not, but anyway, they're neat. The last one going out of there is a frog, and I really like frogs, so I got a kick out of it. The way I was driving, I wasn't able to record them a whole lot, but you can see them a little bit. There's they're blurry there, but there was like a lion and they had a lion, a lizard, a rhinoceros, all sorts of stuff. There were some really nice houses across on the other side of the river, which, were in, you could see them in my video. So now we're headed out. I forgot to show you the Texas Rangers Museum, and also I meant to show you the Baylor Stadium. The Baylor Stadium is called McLean Stadium. It's probably named after somebody, but I don't know who. So I meant to show those to you, and my son reminded me, hey, you didn't do the stadium. The stadium is really neat coming in, going through town to see it. It's on the left if you're coming from Dallas, and it's really impressive. Very, very impressive, especially from that angle. Oh, and I didn't mention that, I don't think. To the path from Dallas, Fort Worth to Austin and in reverse is Interstate 35. It's a straight shot. You don't make any turns or anything. There's some pretty trendy apartments up here and houses on the right side of this. You don't see them real well, but that's kind of the trendy thing. Being a college town, I'm sure the town revolves quite a bit around Baylor. There's probably a lot of really neat restaurants, and there's some trendy apartments and stuff to appeal to the young people. So we're back into the downtown area, kind of the outskirts. That's a Chinese restaurant over there. I tried to talk my son into stopping, but he didn't want to. But it was a huge restaurant. I thought, gosh, they probably have like a buffet or something. We both like Chinese, but I guess he just wasn't hungry. Here's kind of one of those trendy restaurants. I'm doing a lot of turning here because of the road construction. It almost looked like nighttime in the video, but it was actually probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was not late in the day at all, but it looks like early evening. Oh, I didn't mention the population either. The population is 140,000, and you figure in the outskirt areas / suburbs, and it's 280,000. Waco is the county seat of McLennan County, and there was a whole lot of construction around the courthouse, so I wasn't able to actually film it, which was a bummer because I love courthouses, and it's old and majestic looking, but I wasn't able to record it. I did catch an old school earlier, which I forgot to mention. It was a really old high school. It appeared to be somewhat kind of functional, but I don't think it's functioning as a high school, so. And here we are. We're back to the road we came in when we first started downtown. We're going to go under I-35. I-35 just a few short years ago had a lot of construction, and oh man, it was horrible. Very horrible because, this is basically the main road to Austin from Dallas, and so if there's any kind of construction, it's just horrible. But they have got it finished. It's all pretty finished now, but the construction went on for a good probably 10 years. Not just right there in Waco, but in Hillsboro and Temple. And the whole thing was just really a nightmare for probably a good 7 or 8 or 10 years. All right, well, this is the Texas Ranger Museum. It's another nice museum also. We're just going to spin around the parking lot. You can see that old cemetery. It also backs up to that, and actually from this angle, seeing the cemetery was even better than what I saw earlier. I found out just a few years ago that one of my great grandfathers or something was, I don't know how many grades it was, but was a Texas Ranger. I was told by my someone in my family, and I don't know, I didn't know his name or anything, but I was told that, we had this distant relative that was, well, it's a direct relative, direct descendant, but, kind of distant due to age, but gap of time in there. But anyway, I thought that was kind of neat to have a descendant that was a Texas Ranger. Here's the statue that's in front of the building. And this is right alongside the access road. We're fixing to hit the overpass and head out of here. Texas has really upgraded their overpasses. We have some really nice ones now. This is fairly nice. And we've also upgraded our rest stops, roadside parks. And we have a lot of them that are super nice, just really, really nice. Most of them have some kind of little bit of history information inside of them, things you can look at, and they are really nice. They'll have food and drinks and nice restrooms, and they are monitored. They have employees there, and so you have an element of safety to them. However, the roads are not so swift. Now this is another bridge. It's newer. It's not that old, but it's really neat looking. And it's going over the river. And that to the right is the McLean Stadium. We're just going to spin around the parking lot to show you what it's like. It's really not neat when they're playing because if you happen to catch them when the game's over, there's a lot of students outside. A lot of them walk back to the campus, and it's kind of neat. Their colors are gold and green, and they're the Baylor Bears. So here's the building from the backside. It's a very impressive stadium. I've not been in it, but it's just impressive, if nothing else, just from viewing it from the road. So this is basically our last stop, and we're going to be getting out of town. Belmead is a suburb of Waco that we'll go through. I skipped a lot of the driving because there is a huge amount of downtown area here. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting driving through Waco. For the most part, Waco is just kind of an average town, but I really like it there. I really like Waco. I think it has a lot to offer for a mid-sized town. I should have recorded more of the drive through town instead of just the end of it, but it actually takes about 15 minutes to drive through there, so... All right, we're actually in the Belmead area now, and we get off for a split second because I debated on getting gas at the H-E-B, which is, gas typically is cheaper in Hillsboro and Waco, and then than it is in Dallas or Austin. And then when you get close to Austin, it's typically cheaper in Georgetown and Round Rock. So if you're going that way and you're not from Texas and haven't been that way before, keep that in mind, that the gas is usually cheaper in those few places. There's the HEB coming up. The gas was not cheaper, so, and I really didn't really need that much, because what I'll do is I'll fill up at every cheap gas station I find, if I need at least, a half a tank or something. But it was not cheaper than the other places, so I did not stop. I just kind of got off. You can't really tell from the highway, what the price is, so that's why I got off, in anticipation of it. I got off, and then I discovered it wasn't really cheaper, so I went ahead and kept on going. Since we've had these big gas rise prices the last, year.
Simply irresistible.
It's not, since this last year, things have changed, and sometimes the gas is cheaper in Dallas or Austin, but it was very predictable before. Well, my son sang Simply Irresistible all through here, and I wanted to go ahead and leave in one of it. It's really cute the way he just blurts out singing. All right, well, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.